Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about factions that have already been reworked. This would be stuff like the Warriors of Chaos, the Beastmen, factions which did get a major overhaul and admittedly feel quite good but are still not in that game free mark. Maybe because a mechanic doesn't feel too great or is almost there to be considered perfect. There is a lot that could still be done for certain races and factions, and I believe that this is something that Creative Assembly need to look at just to kind of consider them fully done. As right now, I don't think any race is fully complete. I've spoken in brief about the Warriors of Chaos, but there is a little bit more. It's not about missing content, but rather faction playstyle. But before that, a big thank you to our video sponsor, Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is a platform where you'll be able to buy games at a discounted rate. There's loads of games coming out recently. I've been super hyped up for Resident Evil Requiem, for example, and I've been able to get it for 31% off. This is actually a really good deal. I picked it up. I just need to get a little bit of extra free time so I can jump into it. And that's not all. There's just loads of games on offer for different platforms too. So you can get stuff for Xbox, PlayStation, and also Nintendo. Means that you can get loads more games at much cheaper rates. Not only that, but we do have our monthly giveaway going. Win the game of your choice. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below and sign up. You don't even have to make a purchase. Making a purchase, however, with my special link also in the description below, supports the channel at no extra cost to you. This is a platform that I've been using for a number of years now, and I've had a deal with them going on for, 2-3 years. It's a company that I enjoy using. If I use them myself, I'm more than happy to promote them. So once again, a big thank you to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Now, let's return to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, quick fire before anything. I do consider certain races fully done. This is stuff like, for example, the Ogre Kingdoms. I don't think they're going to get anything else. It would be cool if they got a mount option for certain characters, or even just a few units here and there. There's a bunch of missing Noblars, but how the ogres play with their rework and Omens of Destruction, I do feel like they're in a really good spot. And naturally, I'm not going to talk about stuff like the vampire counts because, well, we know that they're getting a rework. There's only a matter of time there, but there are others which just really need a little bit more of an oomph. So we need to focus around those, the ones that are almost complete. But we will start off with the Warriors of Chaos. Now, yes, Creative Assembly have confirmed that Archaon the Everchosen is going to get a specific rework in Lords of the End Times, which is awesome. Archaon just doesn't really feel like the Everchosen at all. But the Warriors of Chaos are in fact needing a separate update. A small one at that. I've mentioned it in previous videos. There is no incentive for the Warriors of Chaos to jump into the old world, invade Grand Cafe or anything, because there are limited to no options in regards to Dark Fortresses. Dark Fortresses need to be able to be built up with souls, with your special currency. Without that, there is no reason to push down. And it sucks because, yeah, you're not even being a threat to the old world. You're not being a threat to the Warhammer world. You're stuck and incentivized to fight with other Chaos factions. I've seen people quickly defend that. And yeah, I get it. It's the whole thing of well, Chaos is always fighting against Chaos. That's perfectly fine. But really, a Warriors of Chaos faction is going to want to push down into the Empire. You're going to want to invade Bretonnia. You want to push into lands that are ripe for the taking, to be corrupted in the name of your chosen god. The Warriors of Chaos need that incentive, and hopefully that comes in the Lords of the End Times, which is why I'm constantly messaging it. Hopefully it hits the right areas. I know a lot of people would say, well, we need unique mechanics for all the Warriors of Chaos characters. And I don't really think so. I think everything that's available now with the basically, 5 different rosters if you're playing Undivided, or 2 different rosters alongside anything else to your chosen god mechanics is more than enough to make the Warriors of Chaos really enjoyable. But the lack of being able to build up a Dark Fortress is kind of just annoying. I think that's probably the best way of saying it. And the thing is, we do know that Warriors of Chaos warbands will take over a fortress and they will try to corrupt it as much as possible. This could be useful. I'm not saying make it cheap. I'm saying maybe 10,000 souls with a extra bit of souls needed every time you make a new Dark Fortress. Give the incentive of building up and pushing down. If not, most of your campaign, in fact all of your campaign, can be played in the Northern Chaos Wastes alone, and that's it. It's boring. Wood Elves. Wood Elves got an update during Warhammer 2, right? And that was great for when it was Warhammer 2, because like the map was much smaller, you didn't feel like there was a lot going on. But now the map is massive. We've got this massive Immortal Empires campaign, and the problem is, would elves feel like an end-to-end simulator? By far, probably. If it wasn't for Daniel, like if Daniel didn't exist, I would likely put the Wood Elves as the worst faction in game. Because it's so boring. There's not much to do. There is no reason to push out other than the trees. You're jumping from magical tree to magical tree, in most cases allying up with all the order factions, and you're just doing nothing for turns on end. This is why I left the Wood Elves as the final faction to do for my achievement runs, because I was just actively dreading them. Something needs to be done about the Wood Elves, maybe expanding the forest a little bit further. You kind of could do that in Warhammer 1, even though it really didn't really affect what you were doing. But, you know, just getting it a little bit there, getting some extra forest health, just to feel like you're actually building up some sort of empire. Hell, getting some settlements just to get the extra forest health doesn't really work too well too, because those areas are just really badly defended. Those minor settlements just have nothing going on for them. Now, you could give those to order factions, but we all know how diplomacy quickly just shits the bed, and then everyone starts fighting against everyone. You end up in wars that you don't want to be in, and that leads to more problems with you protecting those trees. Something really needs to be done about the Wood Elves just to, like, finish them off properly. I don't think they're going to get any more new content. There's not really that much missing for them, but they desperately need a little bit of a fix. More akin to what the Tomb Kings got, and then they'll be perfectly fine. Bretonnia. Yes, Creative Assembly have acknowledged that Bretonnia needs an update on multiple occasions, but nothing seems to be coming to light on that, which is a bit strange. You know, they're 2 reworks, well, 2.5 reworks in, because the second rework actually broke on launch. And yeah, this is what happens when you have a free faction, which is not tied to DLC. It's a massive shame, because I feel like a lot of people do want to like Bretonnia. There's just not a lot of reason to play with them. And it's something that needs to be updated. I think, even though it's a free faction, I still personally believe that they could have a DLC attached to them. There is quite a lot of stuff still missing for the Bretts. But what is really, really missing here is just a lot more fluid gameplay. Changing up some stuff, changing up the Green Knight properly, changing up so much that needs to be fixed on this faction. The vow system is very lackluster. It's sometimes just not going to work out too well. The trough system is the exact same, and that was what was broken at launch. Sieges are atrocious because, you know, you can't have dismounting knights. There are a lot of problems with the Bretts. It's a shame. I like the Bretts. I've painted up 400 minis of Bretonnians. I really enjoy Bretonnia. I just don't want to play them in Total War. It sucks. This is one of those races that I say that I can't play without using mods, because if not, this faction just feels kind of dead. The Beastmen are in a pretty good spot. What I would say is just like some UI issues need to be fixed up, alongside, you know, adding in the corner tours and adding in some other god-touched variants would be kind of cool. It's pretty weird that they've just kind of been ignored there, especially as we've, well, not recently, because it's been a while now. You know, DLCs are kind of far in between, but we have had a Khorne DLC and there's no corner tours. Creative Assembly likely have something planned for the end times, which might bring them in. But yes, there needs to be a UI fix when it comes to unit unlocking. Just a few things. Hell, some buildings to give it like a bit of a reason to be god-touched in certain locations. Again, likely waiting for the end times. But the Beastmen, as much as they're getting, could do with just a little bit there, just to make the campaign a little bit more interesting for certain characters. Maybe they're waiting for a dedicated Beastmen character pack. It does depend on how that goes, because, yeah, you know, we can expect that, I think. There is a decent amount of Beastmen content still kind of missing. Lots of characters, certain big monsters. There's enough for, like, a character pack. Hell, maybe even 2. I just hope they fix like the little issues there just to get the Beastmen up and running a little bit more, because they are one of my comfort factions. I like playing Beastmen. There is one race in Warhammer 3 that has been updated but just doesn't feel great. Tzeentch. You see, Shadows of Change was... it was something, alright, and I feel like we're never really going to forget about Shadows of Change. There was a kind of redo there, and it was a lot better. I feel like we eventually got everything that was needed. Kislev felt great after its patch. The brand new additions for everyone really did bring in a lot of really cool stuff for certain races and factions, which I think everyone was pretty happy about. Cafe was practically fine in both iterations, and that's the great thing about Grand Cafe. Tzeentch, on the other hand, still feels kind of crap. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying, well, yeah, we're missing another legendary lord. Where's VIKRAM? And yeah, I agree. But Kairos got updated, not Tzeentch. So Kairos got updated. He feels good, but the rest of the race still feels kind of bad. I feel like more stuff could have been done there to add to a level of like, oh yeah, we've got a lot more going on for Tzeentch. The Changeling still feels kind of awful because while his campaign is fun, the fact that he starts off in the same location all the time, when in reality he should be starting in different locations, having the choice would be good. I feel like Kairos' faction or Tzeentch as a whole could have a lot more emphasis in magic. It's a Warhammer 3 race which just feels pretty empty compared to all the other ones, right? A dedicated patch would be great. Maybe they're just waiting for a DLC. Again, character packs are still entirely possible, and they could still do that for Tzeentch. This is the great thing about this new DLC format, although we haven't seen exactly the scope and scale of that DLC just yet. It does certainly feel weird. Kairos feels amazing as a playable character, but your other armies, the faction itself, still kind of limited. That's something that needs to be revisited, and I'd say sooner rather than later. All the other Warhammer 3 factions are in a very good spot right now, barring Daniel, but I don't think they're going to be able to do much to fix Daniel, let's be very honest. So I don't even want to talk about him here. Besides, I'm focusing on the factions which had a update and still feel kind of like, well, there could be another one. I don't think there's a specific priority on get this done, because like at the end of the day, updates are coming in a pretty decent pace. I mean, we have to see how this new format works. I don't think we're going to be getting as many updates as we've had in the past, which kind of sucks. I feel like the changing of update system is going to slow things down a tad, and that's fine as long as things work, by the way. I don't care if it's going to take a little bit longer as long as it works. There are definitely other races or even specific lords that need a bit of a touch-up. The Vampire Coast have had nothing for years, which kind of sucks. The Dark Elves kind of need something, and then specific greenskin lords would be great. This is the thing, this game is so huge that it's always going to demand some sort of update and fix alongside like characters for the normal dwarves, some characters for the Skaven. Personally, I think priority needs to be put on races overall, and then fixing up certain lords as time progresses, which should still remain in the budget. I think that this game still kind of looks positive in terms of just output and possible future content, which then obviously leads to DLC, which then leads to just extra stuff, more revenue coming in. Warhammer 3, I do feel, and like I don't know if it still is, obviously they don't tell us that type of stuff, but I imagine it's still very profitable, especially after like, making Warhammer Immortal Empires, technically it's its own thing, but making Immortal Empires the actual true base game experience means that a lot of people from Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2, and in fact, new people are jumping in. So I can imagine dev time being spent here, even possibly after the release of Warhammer 40k. It does depend on how 40k launches, but that's a problem for the future. I still don't think it's coming out this year. I think it's likely next year, so it can take a while. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. I wanted to talk about this today because I fired up a Tzeentch campaign, a Kairos campaign this morning, and I was like, oh, okay, Kairos feels great, obviously, being able to switch around spells and stuff, but the rest of the race just kind of felt meh, right? And it's like, that's a shame, because like Tzeentch, Khorne, Nurgle feel really, really good. Like in a perfect world, every race and faction will play very similar to that of like Nurgle. There's always something quite unique about every single lord. Each of the factions play very, very well. This game is often considered like the ultimate fantasy experience, and yeah, it is the ultimate Warhammer fantasy experience. I'd like it to be the ultimate and perfect Warhammer Fantasy experience. But yeah, have a great day, guys. I'll see you all again very soon. I do apologize that this video is late. It's just, I've been all over the place lately. I'm sorting out so much stuff, and like the painting tutorials. I'm planning out doing some pretty cool like kit bashes. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff I've got planned. Hopefully it won't take too long to be able to share that stuff. See you soon, guys. Bye.